All right, perfect. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. My name is Marley Martin, and I'm on the Automotive Women's Alliance Foundation membership chair. Let me hold on just one second. Okay. I am going to be introducing you to someone amazing today, and super excited for the opportunity for us to get to chat with Amy MacDonald. Before we do so, first things first, I want to thank the sponsors for this event: Magna, Forvia, Foley, and Lardner, Evistix, Warner, Norcross, and Judd, LaFontaine, and Vesco Oil. Secondly, I want to talk about some of the upcoming events that we have for the remainder of the year. There may be more that are still added, but just want to let everyone know. The first one that we have is going to be on May 16th at the Crown Plaza in Lansing. This event is a women's summit, and all the AWAF members get 20% off the registration for that. And then on June 1st, that's going to be a big event for us. We're super excited about. It's our summer starter event. It's going to be at the Ford House in Grosse Pointe. That should be a great turnout. And if you guys want to make sure to just let everyone know about that event, it'll be a lot of fun, and we're super excited for it. The next event is going to be on June 8th and 9th. This will be the Women's Afternoon Tea Panel discussion. And it's for the auto supply chain crisis and lessons learned, and that's for auto tech. So if you do want to go to that, we do have a 30% off code on that as well. August 22nd, that'll be awesome. We have our Fox Hills Golf and Banquet Center. That'll be a whole day event where we have our scholarships golf outing, and hope to see you there on that. October 4th, we have our Pumps and Power, which is so much fun and always a great time. And lastly, at the end of the year, we have an event at Cantoro where we'll be featuring Kristen Tabar, who's the Group Vice President of Toyota in the vehicle development and engineering sector. So hope to see everyone there for all those events. And if you have any questions, please feel to reach out, or if you need anything, just feel free to let us know. So then we're going to open up the discussion. So first off, let's see if we can see Amy on the screen. Hey, Amy, how's it going today?
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so great to see you. Everyone, just want to give you an introduction on Amy. Well, first off, I want to tell you why we're doing this. So this M2Z is something that Kim Zymek came up with the idea on. And the reason why is because at this point in the mobility industry, it seems like there's a lot of mid-career and late career women, and we want to be able to figure out a way to bridge that gap for the women that are just starting out in their career, or those that are going to be going into a career. So with that, we thought the first perfect speaker was Amy MacDonald. Amy has been at GM for the last 6 years. She's a engineering program engineering manager. She works on the BEV3 program, and she has her master's in engineering from U of M and her bachelor's from Kettering. And on top of it, she's also a part of 3 groups as well. She's part of AWAF, and she's on the board as a secretary for that. She's also the Society of Women Engineers and the National Society of Professional Engineers. So Amy's had quite great experiences, especially being in the generation that she's in. And today we want to be able to showcase how we can work with her and figure out what we need to be able to get into that sector as well, just enjoying each other's company and bridging the gap to get there. So Amy, with that, thank you so much. I know I was going to ask you, the first question is, tell us your story. Let's hear all about you.
Yeah, thanks so much again for having me. So as you probably saw in the emails, my name is Amy MacDonald. I've actually been involved with Automotive Women's Alliance Foundation for over a decade now. the first time I heard about this org or this nonprofit dedicated to advancing the status of women in mobility was actually when I was a sophomore in my undergraduate studies. And while I was broke, as many college students were, and I was trying to figure out how the heck I was going to make tuition, I had taken a second job as a caterer in addition to working at my cooperative company full time. And then I would go and do these catering events on the weekends and evenings. And then I applied for a scholarship through AWAF and they awarded me one. And besides calling my mom to like tell her the good news, my second call was to go and quit that catering job because I no longer needed it to pay for school, thanks to AWAF. So I think we have some students on the line, and I wanted to encourage you to explore our scholarship program if you're unfamiliar with it. And then I also want to mention what's special about our scholarship program is you can actually apply again, which I did. And then I applied again after that. And then I applied again after that. So they actually awarded me 3 scholarships when I was in school, which was such a significant help to me in alleviating the financial burden that we obviously all know that college can be. So that's how I got connected with AWAF. And then I graduated from college, and I started my professional career officially as a full-time kind of big girl engineer now. And I got a call from one of the board members of AWAF inviting me to be on the board. And I remember being like, me? Like, I just graduated 5 minutes ago. Why would I be on the board? Like, don't you want some like C-level executive? Like I've been working for 5 minutes. Like, what? And, and true to their mission, AWAF is committed to advancing and supporting women of a diverse range, including age. And that's why they reached out to me, kind of being a young engineer, is, hey, we are looking for women to serve as leaders within our organization so we can have representatives from every domain that we can, including age, that we are not just thinking of diversification in its templated ways, but also doing it in other ways. So that's my AWAF story. And I've been a board member and involved with this incredible organization for over a decade now. And then kind of professionally, as Marley mentioned, I've been at GM for just over 6 years now. I work as a program engineering manager on our BEV3 architecture. What that means is it is GM's 3rd generation of electric vehicles. And it's really centered around creating some of our crossover portfolio EVs. So what you know is some of our most popular crossovers like the Equinox, like the Blazer. Now we're making the EV equivalent of these. So there's a multitude of programs on that architecture. Some have not, most of them have not been released to the public yet. All I'll say is that they're beautiful and amazing. And if you're interested in EV, like GM's the place to purchase one from. So kind of my other story I wanted to share today, which segues into a couple like high level talking points or advice I could share, so last year on March 29th, I had my first baby, my son. His name is Simon. If you're wondering, he's stupidly adorable and chunky and like all the things you want in a baby. So he's like our sun, moon, and all our stars. And GM has a very generous leave. So I got 4.5 months paid time off to bond with my baby, to recover from birth, to kind of get acclimated to this new tiny human that I'm now responsible and keeping alive. And in addition to that, I also decided to take some extra time. And actually, kind of a funny story. I was 5 months pregnant when GM announced that they were bolstering their leave. So it went from, I think it was like 12 weeks to 4.5 months, or 3 months to 4.5 months. I was 5 months pregnant, and I definitely had like, I call it hormotional, but like hormone induced emotions of like crying happy tears for like an hour because I was so happy that I get all this extra time off with my kiddo. So during my maternity leave and conversations with my husband, it was like, I really wanted to take more time off. I didn't, even 4.5 months being, the longest time, the industry standard for an automotive for time off with your baby, I wanted more. It was just what I wanted in my heart of hearts. So I consciously applied for additional leave that was unpaid. There was definitely a voice in my head that was like, well, I mean, there goes your career. Or like, there was this voice in my head that was like, you are not, you are portraying someone who no longer prioritizes work. And, there is that voice in your head sometimes. So I definitely succumbed to that. And I heard that, but I still, in my heart of heart, wanted to be with my baby longer. So I took more leave. And while I was on leave, I was also exploring the idea of making a development move. So my boss at the time, when I went on leave, she was an amazing leader. Her and I had decided that I had done well enough in my current role, and it was time for me to look at kind of the next challenge. So I remember reaching out to a mentor of mine saying, hey, do you have any availability, in this space or this space? I actually was looking for like a design release engineer job or to get some experience in that space. And he replied, and he was like, well, no, I don't know of any opportunities in this area, but hey, there's this other job centered around complex features. It's a program engineering manager role. Like, I think you'd be great for it. And so he sent me the requisition, and I looked over it, and it was an 8th level position. So if you're unfamiliar with that nomenclature, it's essentially like the first level of management at GM. And it's kind of seen as a pretty big stepping stone in your GM career. And being 28, it was actually quite young and early in my career to be achieving this kind of a promotional opportunity. So I remember replying back to him like, Joe, I don't think I'm ready. Like, what, like, I still haven't done this. I haven't done that. Like, no way. Like, I'm not 8th level yet. Like I'm not ready. And he was like, well, I think you're wrong. I think you are ready. But I think you should apply anyways. And worst case is you meet some cool new people and you get your face out there and, you get exposure. It's like, okay, yeah, that's true. I'll just apply. I don't really have anything to lose. I'm kind of weird, and I think interviews are fun. It's a chance to talk about me, which is my favorite topic. So I really kind of enjoy interviews. But I won the first round of interviews, then I won the second, and then I won the third. And then I got a call and they said that they were like ready to hire me. And then I had won the job. And I was like really surprised, definitely floored. Like, I knew the interviews had been going well, but like, I still thought like when someone looks at my resume and sees my time in service, like they'll probably disqualify me and whatever. But then I got it. So upon returning from an extended maternity leave, I got a double promotion, a 20% raise. And also I got put up in like a higher like bonus bracket. So that's like an amazing story because that I want to share, because I want people to know that happens, that even when you're consciously making the decision to lean out of your career to prioritize things in your personal life, you can still very much be amply rewarded for that. And that will not, if with the right encouragement and with the right gameplay, like it will not be a detriment to your overall career path. And, for me, my leave was because I had a baby, but it's analogous to people, sometimes people take academic leaves or sabbaticals. Sometimes they're taking other forms of dependent care leave because they have a sick loved one they have to care for, or, there's, insert 1,000 different circumstantial life situations that may require you to pivot from work and focus your energy and time on something outside of work. So for me, in this point in time, it was my baby, but it could have been something else, for someone else. So this is where I'm going to get a little vulnerable now. It's a great story, right? Optically, like, oh, cool. She got all this great time with her kid, and then her company like rewarded her. So I started in this team. It's a global team. So there were calls at 6:30, 7 in the morning. There were calls at 8, 9, 10 p.m. because I'm working with teams with 12 to 14 hour time differences. It's very demanding. And I was like, what did I do? Like, I have a baby. Like, I don't have time. I can't work 12 hours. Like, oh my gosh. And then, sleep regressions hit and teething and your baby's sick. And oh, by the way, your daycare is closed for a week because there was a COVID exposure. And you're like, what am I going to do? Like, what? Oh my God. Like, so there were definitely moments where like, literally I actually cried. Like I came home, I was working from home, but like I cried because I was like, I can't do this. Like, what was I thinking? I must have been crazy. This was not the right time to do this. I can tell you that I'm still in the job. Like I've survived. Like we're pressing on. But this kind of segues into some things that I have learned that I would love to share with you guys. And, hopefully something that I share resonates with you. Maybe it's not useful for the slice in time that you're at right now, but maybe a couple years from now, when you're going through a similar struggle, it'll scratch that part of your brain and you'll remember some of these little tidbits that I want to offer. So I'll start with two things that are macro, that in my mind will make or break your ability to balance and be successful. And then I have a couple micro suggestions that I think will make things easier and or enable you, but not quite as make or break as the first two. So the first one of the macro section is if you choose to get married or have a lifelong partner or cohabitation, or basically someone that you're expecting to support you and you also support them, pick a good one. Like pick a person who will celebrate and relish your ambition, that will not be insecure when you are succeeding, that don't feel jealous, that understand that your success is their success too, because being in a marriage and a long-term partnership, I could not do things without my husband. And so I try to make sure that he understands that when I have a cool thing happen to me or a big win at work, that's because he was there to support me in all other aspects of my life. Mm-hmm. The best advice I got at my wedding actually came from my sister, who said a true partnership is not this everything's 50-50. It's actually giving 100 when your partner can't give anything. So someone who, will understand that there will be times where they have to pick up your slack, and, it's back and forth too. So there are definitely times where my husband works late that I'm on baby duty. But, working together and enabling each other and not being adversaries in any way of your guys's career. So I think that is incredibly important. And then kind of the second micro thing is more on the individual level, but it has to do with banishing thoughts of self-doubt. So if you've ever read Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, it came out many years ago. It's not like a new book, but she explores this concept of the imposter syndrome. And essentially what that is, if you haven't read the book or unfamiliar with that term, kind of the nickel dime of it is it's having these psychological feelings and thoughts that you are not credentialed enough or worthy enough or smart enough or whatever it is for what position you have. Now, men experience this too, but statistically speaking, this is actually more prevalent amongst women. But essentially, the concept of imposter syndrome was one day you feel like you're going to be found out, like someone's going to realize that you're an imposter, that you're not actually smart enough or good enough or whatever to be there. And that to me is creating this narrative of self-doubt and defamation that you need to control in your own mind. Now, I will say that there is some benefits to being kind of critical of yourself, right? There's this feeling that you want to continuously improve and, understanding your weaknesses and strengths so you can build on the strengths and help mitigate some of your weaknesses. But there is a line where that becomes very toxic and where you actually start to tear yourself down and you are no longer positively influencing yourself. And it is a known fact that your thoughts become actions. So if you start telling yourself continuously that you weren't ready for this role, like myself, or that you don't have this experience, or I don't have this degree, or I've never worked at this part of the company, I shouldn't do this other part, these things will hold you back. And it takes kind of conscious intention and a higher level of self-introspection to catch yourself when you're doing it, and then to kind of twist the narrative. And I give this advice kind of anecdotally, as if I have figured this out. I haven't. I can even tell you in the context of this forum here, when Kim Ziamek, an amazing leader in AWAF and in the industry, called me and said, hey, we want to feature you as a speaker on this new cross-generational series that we're going to be starting to offer. And honestly, my first thought was who would pay to hear me speak? no, like not me, like it can't be me. Like, but but then, and then I had to catch myself like, no, I have a story. I have stuff to share. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a valuable perspective to bring. So I only mention that because I feel like I'm giving this advice and I feel like I'm making it sound like I've arrived on some of these. I have not. But and even, in just in this context of this forum today, I was falling into that trap of telling myself I wasn't worthy of it. So kind of banishing those thoughts of self-doubt. And another kind of tactic you could apply here, if this is something that you struggle with, which I feel like everybody does at some point. I know I certainly do. But also practicing the art of self-talk. I've read a couple self-help books where it's kind of like, and I think it's probably depicted in like TV and mainstream media, but like you have someone like looking at themselves in the mirror and being like, you're good, you're a rock star, like you got this, like pep talking. And I know that it's like, on movies and it's like a joke, but there is actually like studies that have shown that that actually does flip the narrative in your mind. And I learned the impact of positive self-talk actually when I did my first marathon. I've done 2 marathons, fun fact. They're really hard. I don't recommend them. But if you are crazy enough to do any sort of endurance sport, mine was running, but there's all kinds of, Ironmans, triathlons, whatever. A lot of a good, one of the biggest challenges of endurance sports is actually the mental aspect of them, because you do have to endure a struggle for a long period of time. And so you have to really control your mind. And I remember when I would be in my race, I would have to say, like, give myself positive self-talk. 1 more mile, you can do this. 1 more mile, mile 16, you got this. You did 15 more, you can do 1 more. Like, and just telling yourself this. But I truly believe applying this technique to your professional pursuits or even any other personal pursuits that require a lot of motivation, or, you find yourself kind of putting yourself down at times, practice positive self-talk. Like, tell yourself you can do it. List to yourself why you can do it. Say, another thing I also do a lot is I'll think back on really hard experiences in my life. Like, I survived that. I can survive this. Like one time I studied abroad and I was in college and I was robbed in Barcelona. My passport, my credit cards, like everything taken. I don't speak Spanish. I was with one other friend who also doesn't speak Spanish. And I had to go work with the police. I had to get like a new passport. I had no money. I had no clothes. I had no anything. And I was like, I survived that. Like, I was identityless in a foreign country and unable to communicate, but I'm here. Like, I lived. Like, so sometimes that's something I do is I'll try to like remember some really hard situation that I persevered through. And then I tell myself I have the grit to continue on here. So those are a couple tactics on how you could banish self-doubt. So those were my 2 macro items: is get you a good partner who will support and enable and love you. And, if you had a rough day, or if you just had a really bad day, or maybe you messed up, they're there to like pull you up, pump you up, like, you got this, you can do it. Like, that's the kind of encouragement you might need some days from your partner. So that's my macro tip number 1, is have a great partner. And then macro tip number 2 is banish thoughts of self-doubt, replace them with positive self-talk. Understand that you were selected to do what you are doing, and whatever project or pursuit that you're on a path for, you are meant to be on that path and you will complete it. So those are my macro items. So my micro items that I see as enablers to help you. So life is busy, right? I told you I have a baby. He's 1, he's toddling around, which means he's pretty much actively trying to kill himself all the time. Like, oh, look, stairs. I think I'll fling myself down them. Oh, look, a drawer. I would love to smash my fingers there. Like, so it's like, you have to constantly watch him. It's not like I can like put him down and like go cook dinner. Like, no, like you got to watch him. So I feel like, I don't have a great deal amount of time. So I have to be really strategic with how I time manage, which is certainly a whole skill that you could, really get into. But my micro tips here that I found really helpful is outsource some of your responsibilities. I don't go to the grocery store. I order online. I order Instacart. I paid for an Instacart Express membership, which has already paid itself off. But I have someone grocery shop for me, and then it's delivered at my front door. In fact, I did it this morning while I was in a meeting. I did my groceries online, and then they were at my door within an hour. So that's one thing I can suggest. Another thing too, is if you are, kind of able to financially, but you could also outsource your house cleaning. I remember when I was first started GM and I was working on my master's, and I had night classes till 9 p.m. a few times a week. And I was living with my husband, and like, we just weren't cleaning, and it was gross to live in my house at that point in time because we just didn't. And then we would argue about it, and it'd be like, why don't we just get someone to help us out? So then we're like, oh, we'll just do this while I'm in grad school. But then it became such an enabler and freed up our time that now we've done it ever since. So we have someone who cleans our house for us, and that helps save you whatever 2 to 4 hours a week, and however long you would, usually spend cleaning your house. So we outsource that. There's other things out there, other services, like have a meal delivered to you, right? There's meal delivery services. If cooking is not your jam, or you just don't have time, like, have a couple meals delivered, right? Like, you can have a healthy meal. It's not takeout. You don't feel guilty about it. You can get something healthy sent to you. There's other options, if you need to hire like a housekeeper or some help or something like this to do a load of laundry for you, or, there's no shame in this. And I feel like we don't really talk about, like, I'll say outsourcing our responsibilities, because maybe there's like, people are ashamed that they can't figure out how to do it themselves, or maybe they just, they thought about it, but they didn't do it because they're like, well, I can do it. Why would I pay someone else? It's like, what is your time worth? Like, would I rather spend 2 hours grocery shopping, or would I rather spend 2 hours taking my kid to a playground? I pick the latter. So those are kind of some of my micro tips. It's essentially outsource what you can to free up your own time.
Yeah, Amy, those are awesome. I definitely agree with you on your tips. They sound like they're very helpful. One thing that I will say is with you on the DoorDash and the cleaning lady and all of that, I do the same thing as well, and I think it's super helpful. Right now, we're in the era of convenience, having something at our fingertip, and if we have the means, we should try to do so. I know time value of money is also important, and you need to prioritize your life and the way that you want to manage things. And if that means doing something, have someone else do something, then so be it. That's awesome. So great tip. Another great tip was the being your own worst critic. I think that it's so important that we just know that, we are worthy and we are in the spot that we're in for a reason. Those are all super helpful things. I know I have a few questions, and then I was planning to open it up to everyone as well, if anyone else has any other questions. One thing that I was thinking about was in your current work environment, is there something that your boss does or your teammates do that you really enjoy that you think would be good for everyone else to kind of know to do as well?
Great question. So specifically for my boss, some of the traits that I admire most that, like, when I'm a leader at his level one day, will definitely want to do is he is like really good at simplifying really complicated situations. And then like kind of cutting through these like factors that are noise, and really like simplifying it and making it like a decision that people are now comfortable in making because they understand it now. So that's something he's really good at. He's also like really charismatic. I don't know if he'll ever watch this. Maybe he'll be embarrassed, but I'm gonna tell the story anyways. When I first got this job, he took me out to lunch as like a congratulations, also to like get to know me more. And he is clearly like a football fan, and he like dropped his napkin and was like, "Oh, fumble!" like to the waiter, and I was like, "Oh, this is the kind of lunch we're having." Okay, like touchdown. Like I don't know, like I just tried to like match his energy or whatever. So, but that's actually a character trait like I love about my leader, because he's charismatic. He has great energy. He makes people feel comfortable and welcome with just saying hi and like small talk in a way that you don't typically get that. So those are some things I admire a lot about him.
Awesome. What would you say, like in the typical work week, what would you say your favorite part is?
Yeah, my favorite part is some of the strategic work that I do. When we look at like global trends and like in technology, um, we take a moment to make sure that we are meeting those trends in our vehicles. Like, guys, if you thought a car was a mobility device to get you to point A to point B, you are wrong because it has amazing, incredible safety features. It is designed to entertain you with like state-of-the-art infotainment and audio technology that is of the same quality as like a rock concert. We have imagery and displays and screens that are better than what you can buy in a home for your living room. These vehicles are designed, the technology that we put on these vehicles are to make your life more convenient, safe, comfortable, entertaining. They are way more than just mobility devices. So that's kind of one really fun part about my job is I get to like look at what are the global trends, how can we insert them on our vehicles, how can we create a very unique experience for a customer that no one else is doing yet. We got a lot of cool stuff. I can't say what they are, but they're really cool.
That's awesome. What would you say, if based off of your previous work experience, what would you say were a few things that you would want to change about that? Is there anything specific that you think maybe would make your experience better in the past, or have you thought that it's been pretty good throughout your whole career so far?
Yeah, there is nothing I would say tactically about my journey I would change. If I could, in college was a very high stress person. I was involved in like everything. I wanted to ace all my classes. Like I was very high stress because I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform. Definitely getting into that like toxic area where I was, probably trying to overperform or, just putting so much pressure on myself. So if I could do anything, I would go back to my past self, maybe like shake her a little and tell her like, calm down, you're going to be just fine. Like you will do what you are setting out to do. And you don't need to like age yourself 3 years in the process with stress and pressure. So if anything, I would try to tell myself to calm down.
Awesome. That's good. Um, is there something that led you to go down the path that you're down today, like being in the engineering sector? Is there like a specific something that made you want to get into that?
Yeah. So what pushed me to automotive, I would say I knew that I was probably destined to be some sort of engineer or STEM, even from like college. And even my like lifelong best friend, her and I did this pre-engineering program in high school. And then we like made a vow to be like college roommates. And it was adorable.
Huh.
But like I knew I wanted to be an engineer in high school. Like that's kind of what I just knew I was good at. Math and science were my favorite subjects, and also I did the best there, which are probably correlated in that regard. And it was actually my mom. So my mom worked at General Motors. She spent her whole career at General Motors, and I remember actually being an angsty teenager that I was like, Mom, I'll never work in the automotive industry because that's where you work. And no, like total shithead, right? But it wasn't until I got into Kettering University, and it's an experiential learning institution. So for every semester of class, you also have to have a semester of work. And so I had to find a company, we called them co-op companies. And the co-op company that provided me the best opportunity at the time happened to be an automotive one. So despite my statements to my mother, I actually started working in this automotive company. It's called IAB Automotive. They're like powertrain consulting and engine testing. They were a great company. I loved every minute I was there. I loved the leaders there. I loved the people I worked with. And it was really there that I understood what an amazing machine a vehicle is. And I was just looking at the engine, which is like one part of the car. And I was like, wow, this is a lot. Like, this is a ton of stuff here. Like, there's so much to learn, and like the data science and the physics and the fluid dynamics and the mechanics. It's just like, it was so much. And so that's, I think, where I pivoted from engineering to like automotive engineering, was when I actually started working in the automotive sector. So
What do you like the most about being in the automotive sector, and what do you dislike the most about it?
So what I like the most about it is I actually think they really need leaders and people like myself. And I don't mean to make that sound like kind of narcissistic or anything, but I really like talking. So like for an engineer, I'm quite extroverted, which I've definitely like scared people with my extroversion. Like if I'm talking with someone from R&D, like it is slow, smaller words. Like I have to like chameleon myself, right? But we need people who are more outspoken, who have more of like creative traits than analytical ones. Because if everybody's analytical, everyone typically already has like very similar academic backgrounds or work experiences. And so we need people who think differently, who act differently, who communicate differently, who challenge others to do all those things differently too. And not to make like a broad stroke on any sort of like gender traits, but I do think that there are perhaps statistically some skills that women naturally have that they bring to the table. They certainly change the dynamic, and obviously females are 50% of our customer base, but certainly not, that ratio is not what's represented in the workforce making these products. So we're making products for, half customers will be women, but like it happens like 3/4 of the people making the product are men, right? So like there are certain use cases, there are certain situations that really only a woman would experience. I think so. I mean, I don't mean to make like broad gender strokes. I actually don't like making these, I don't like categorizing or making blanket statements for a specific gender, but that's what I like most about my role, is because I think I work a little differently than most people I'm with. One, because of my extroversion, but then also two, because I'm a woman. Yeah. And I think there's something I bring to the table that my male colleagues just kind of don't. What I like least about it is sometimes the spectrums of personalities can be hard to manage. Like it's energizing when you have someone who's like yes-anding you and like super excited and passionate and like do what they're saying gonna do. But like, there's also people who I get responses like, well, we didn't do that on the engine programs. Why would we do it on your program? I'm like, oh, there's a ton of shit that we're doing on EVs that we don't do on ICE vehicles, dude. Like, get it together. So like dealing with people like that can be frustrating, because it's like annoying, because now you have to like convince them and motivate them to like change their mind and to work with you. And I just got like an email yesterday. There's a cool feature and I need his support on it. I need his technical know-how. And he like wrote back something like, I'm not surprised, but you clearly don't understand that our money-making truck products don't have this. And then he like inserted some of our sales numbers, like as if I like don't see that or something. Like, anyways, it was like so condescending. Like I had to like walk away. I had to give myself an adult timeout. So I didn't like get angry on this guy. But like people who, that's the thing I don't like about this job, is people who treat you like that, which you'll find in any company. But that's what I don't like.
Yeah, for sure. There's always like that, hour rule or whatever that, if you get an email like that, you wait a while before you send something back. So just to make sure that, it's really what you want to say, because once it's out, it's out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, that's great. I think right now what we'll do is open the floor up. I have a few more questions if we have time, but let's open the floor up and see. I'm sure everyone here could think of something to ask you to bring value to this. So we can open it up now. Debbie?
So Amy, it's so nice to listen to what you have to say. It resonates with me. I've been recruiting engineers in automotive for 40 years. And I'm passionate about it. I love it. I can relate to a lot of things that you're saying. Your advice at your young age is phenomenal. I wish I would have had you in my life when I was your age.
We have each other now, Debbie. We have each other now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I was faced with an ill husband in my career, and I didn't have the right mentorship. I didn't have the right support. I didn't even know where to go to get it. And so what I did is I suppressed it. And that hurt my career. It hurt me personally. So your voice is so important. It just is the most dynamic thing that you can provide to other people and other women in careers and in life. So thank you. I appreciate what you've given.
You're 40 years in recruiting. I bet you've seen some personalities.
I have.
Drink sometime.
Yeah, would love to. No, it's great.
Kim?
Hey there.
Hey.
How much influence do you think your family really had on your, not so much your education, but your career journey so far?
Huge, definitely huge. Even despite my rebellion in my high school years, where I basically told my mom I didn't want her job. Sorry, Mom. But no, definitely huge. And, you know, when you're younger, or like, especially when I was at college, I did not have the awareness of how much I had learned from them and how much they had supported me. And then now, and then working, then I was so much that my mom said, or I was so much more, I wanted to inquire more about like her experiences. Like, wait, you raised Amanda and I, and like also had this big career, and also traveled, and also like did a soccer team, and also took classes. What? Like, how? Like, so there was this like total next level of appreciation. And then I had a baby. I remember calling my mom, like, did I never let you sleep? Like, I'm so sorry. Like,
Yeah.
so again, like, yeah, absolutely they did. And my sister's ambitious. She's a lot like me. Massive role model. Honestly, your big sisters, or even probably your big brothers, are like your first role models in life. And then are pervasively your role models beyond there. And she's also given me like amazing advice about marriage and college. And she's a mom herself, like level 12, awesome mom. So yeah, they have had a lot to do with it, hugely. And I really do defer to them a ton. Thanks for asking that, Kim.
Any other questions out there?
Oh, I can't believe that nobody has any questions. Oh my God.
I'm an open book.
Open book.
Armenio, are you on? You want to ask a question?
Yes. Well, it's a semi question and something that really resonated with me. So first of all, thank you, Amy, for sharing your experience, your pieces of advice. I wrote them down. That's, working home office, it's kind of puts us in silos. So it's really nice getting together and sharing, what we go through as individuals in our careers. So thank you for all that. One thing that, so I work in consulting for a Gap International management company. And there is, the concept of ownership that we're discussing with our clients. And this is what you said. Best partnership is not giving 50-50, but giving 100% of yourself. And this is what you mentioned about your relationships. And, I thought, did you ever use, or most probably you naturally did. My bet is that you probably naturally did that at work as well. But have you noticed how that works, or how that 100% of ownership changes the whole situation and puts you as a leader with people that you're working with at work?
Yeah, awesome question. I would say absolutely yes. I have some regards made a career out of like filling in gaps. and someone called me spackle once. I think it was a compliment. I took it as a compliment. But when you work in a big company, and you mentioned silos, when you work in a big company, and you're totally right, this working from home pandemic period has only exacerbated this silo behavior. But a lot of these features and technologies, and it could be analogous to another project, but they're highly distributed in nature. I'll give an example for like a couple features. Like it takes integration work from the HVAC system, from our seat technology team, from our ambient lighting team, from our exterior audio team, from our body team, and they don't talk. There's literally sometimes no natural point in which they would connect. And so when you're like, well, who owns this feature? It's like, everyone's like, well, they own it, and then they own it, and then they own it. And you're like, okay, listen, the customer don't care who owns it, but they do care that it works and consistently. So that's when someone like myself would step in as this like technology program engineering manager and make sure that like everybody's integrating together, that we're time aligning, that we're considering we have all the same requirements and same performance targets. And so yeah, I definitely think the concept of ownership, like if you are willing to step up and be that person and step out of your bounds or your area of expertise, like you will be loads above, I'll say, some of your colleagues who fall prey to the trap of only staying inside their box, because that's just not how the world works. The world is not, I package this product in this one box. If that was the case, then GM would not be a 250,000 person company, right? It'd be like a 25 person company, because you'd only need it's a huge company because we need all these parts and pieces, and someone has to make sure they come together. So definitely, taking ownership is certainly a behavior that I have practiced and have served me very well in this role and other roles. Great question.
Hey, Antonella.
Hi, I think Katrin also had a question.
Oh, okay.
I'll be quick. I'll be quick. Thank you. So Amy, this has been wonderful. I feel like what you're saying resonates with all of us from many different generations. I feel like everyone's afraid kind of how to connect with the M2Z generation, but I feel like we're so much more alike than anyone realizes. And what you're saying about the stigmas behind simple things like outsourcing life tasks, that existed in generations prior to you. It's part of my generation too, and I love that. I love that you brought that forward. And one of my questions is, I've worked with GM Powertrain as a supplier before, and I've seen, even getting the transmission team and the powertrain teams together at Milford, and the breadth of that, and just the detail and engineering that goes into the powertrain is so critical to everything GM stands for. How is that, how does that translate from the ICE teams to the EV teams, and how do you see those dynamics differ? I feel like I know someone that I went to university with, and she's in the EV Grow team at GM.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I know that you guys are doing amazing things in the EV space, and just wondering the differences and dynamic between the ICE teams and the EV teams.
Yeah, great question. So before I worked on this team, I worked on full-size trucks and the big V8 engine. So literally like the antithesis of these electric vehicles that I work on now. But I can tell you that we are putting a tremendous amount of money and engineering resources on figuring out how to make engines cleaner, efficient, more efficient. Like, you would be shocked at how many billions of dollars and how many people spent their full-time careers figuring out how to get like 1 more mile of fuel economy. Like, we are squeezing. Like, sometimes I'm like, I think we just defied the laws of physics. Like, I took thermodynamics and that's not supposed to be that efficient. Like, so there's actually, I would say the passion and the purpose is the same. You're just you're doing it on 2 different devices. And And then ICE vehicles have been obviously our most successful one, trucks, kind of my other example. So there's a lot of discipline and there's a lot of lessons learned and best practices and stuff that is now highly 100% applicable to EV vehicles. You would follow similar development cycles. You would have, similar best practices, as I mentioned. So in a lot of ways, they complement each other. I think a lot of people think that they're adversaries because there is this all EV future, which we are pursuing, but we could not do that without our ICE portfolio either.
All right, Katrine.
Hi. Thanks again, Amy, for sharing your experiences there. I found them pretty relatable as well. My question is, do you have any strategies that you use when you're communicating with people who maybe doubt you for your age or some of those personalities that you described?
Yes. Yeah, I actually think in my experience that it's not necessarily being a woman, but it's more my age that people will treat me differently for. And what I do is I kind of try to tell more stories well, when I worked on full size truck, we did it this way and this was our outcome. And I think we should apply the same tactic here. Instead of saying I think we should apply this tactic here. If I feel like that person doesn't have the rapport with me or trust or thinks I'm too young or thinks I'm whatever, I will correlate it to an experience where in that same statement of giving my recommendation, I'm also kind of subtly citing a credentialed experience that makes me to them fit to make that statement. So I think there's that. And then, also just continuing to draw upon your experience. So my former boss, she's actually pretty young and she's already an executive, and she would, say things like, well, in my decade-long career, and she would make statements like that and highlighting how much work and output that she's had. Maybe her colleagues had less than 10 years, but certainly 10 years is not a number to balk at all. It was still pretty early for an executive, but substantially, it's a substantial amount of experience. Another tactic actually has probably been most useful, so maybe I should have started this one, is with those people, you could always let the data do the talking. When I had really technical roles, I would let the data do the talking and put it up on the screen and say, this data I have deduced tells us to go to this direction. Now on the technology feature side, I'm looking at it a lot of customer data or global trends or technology trends. And I'll say this is what the trend is. Here's the data. This isn't just opinion of Amy. This is the data. Are you telling me our customers are wrong? I don't think so. I don't think you do that. Whatever name I want to choose. So that's one tactic that's worked for me in the past too. It's just letting the data do the talking.
Thank you.
All right. Luann had a question. Amy, what is your career goal?
I don't know where to start. How much time we got left?
Looks like we have 6 minutes.
No, it's a good question. And I can give kind of what I want to do. So there's 2 things I want to do in my career. One of which I already alluded to, my extroversion, but I'm really passionate about people. So after this job, I really want to be we call them EGMs or an engineering general manager, but that's when you actually have your own team. And I want to work with a team and I want to unlock their intrinsic motivation. I want to give them satisfying assignments where they're stretched and challenged. And I want to encourage them along the way. And I realize this is probably a naive, rosy outlook because anyone who has ever had to lead a team knows that it's a bell curve, right? You have some high performers, which will do that. You have mostly average performers, and then you got some low performers. So there's this side of, working with people that is often difficult or challenging because you have to kind of coach someone who's a low performer. But I still want to work with people. And then the second thing is I definitely want to contribute to GM's bottom line. I like winning. I like the fact that GM is one of the most profitable domestic automakers. I like hearing Mary speak when she speaks about our successes, and I want to continue to multiply that with my endeavors at GM.
Awesome. Any other questions?
I
Don't
can
be
see her
shy.
being president of GM.
Yeah. Yeah, we have this recorded now, so we'll be able to look back at it and see what happens.
I remember Amy when.
Yeah, I remember me when I was a
Amanda.
little sophomore in college.
Yeah. Amanda, it looked like you had your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, I was just clapping.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
That's my sister.
Oh, amazing.
I didn't see you on. Hi.
I joined a little late, so I didn't want to ask a question that had already been answered, but yeah.
Well, thanks for joining, Amanda. Do you have any piece of advice too? I'm sure anything in the family is good advice.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear this.
Ooh, you, I would say relationships have been, cultivating social capital and building relationships, which is so much of what you're doing right here, is so impressive and so important, both for personal and professional growth. If I had to, and that's something Amy has exemplified since, she's been president of every club she's ever joined. And so she's the joiner, she's in everything. So I love watching her grow.
Oh, it's amazing.
I'm gonna cry.
Looks like we have one more question and then we'll wrap up here. Liz asked, what is your best 10-second advice for networking?
I think with networking, sometimes it's just the first step is overcoming inertia, right? It's like actually being brave enough to sign up and then actually being brave enough to like put on your dress pants and go. And then there's another being brave enough to like start a conversation or just like put yourself out there and try. I think that's my best advice for networking is there's like this inertia you have to overcome because it can be really uncomfortable, like rubbing elbows with people you have never met and you have no idea if you have common interests, or am I going to say something stupid? Or they like what, there's like, you can build this up in your head, all the reasons you shouldn't do it. But I think just breaking that inertia and just going for it. And
awesome.
Shameless plug, AWAF has plenty of networking events where we are designing them to be comfortable, right? We've actually had events in people's homes, like talk about like an intimate, like chill setting. So, if you are nervous about networking or that's a skill you want to work on, or you just want to, participate in networking, like AWAF is a great place to start too.
Awesome. Well, great. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. It's been great. And thank you again, Amy, for all of your contributions. It's been great listening to you. And I'm sure we've all taken some great bits of advice from you. So thank you for that.
Thanks so much for letting me share.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We'll let you go. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. And again, happy Friday Eve.
Oh, somebody wants to see a picture of Simon.
Oh, I saw. I will challenge accepted.
He is such a cutie rock star, man. Oh, he's so cute.
I made him myself.
Oh, wait a minute now. I think you had some help.
I'll send you one of my favorite pictures of him.
He's very cute. I will attest to that.
Okay. Are we letting her share?
It's loading a picture.
Okay.
I wasn't going to share my screen, but it's about halfway done uploading. So it'll be in the chat.
Okay,
so
cool.
You get your cute baby fix for any of those who needed it.
Well, Amy, thank you so much for being our first ever M2Z speaker. And on behalf of AWAF, Marley and Roseanne and Kelly and myself, thank you for taking the time. I think you've set the bar very, very high for the next young lady to be one of the M2Z speakers in the future. So thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah.